each year it's renewable, hopefully, by the Congress. So what we're looking at doing is we're part of a pilot program that's going to come up with the best practice techniques for use in the state of Maine on lakes that are infested with invasive plant species. They granted us $40,000. Now, part of that $40,000, it's a 2-for-1 match, which means we have to raise $40,000 to get the $40,000, and we have to donate in volunteer time $40,000 worth of time at, I think their figure is $20 an hour is what they use. So we have support from Lake Arrowhead community. They've made a significant contribution to help fight the milfoil this year. It's $15,000. Our membership runs anywhere from $12,500 to $13,000 for mostly waterfront residents that have joined the organization at $100 a year, on top of their Lake Arrowhead dues, which is roughly $1,000. And we basically also have a DEP grant that comes in to help us fight milfoil at $6,000. We run fundraisers right down the street in front of the real estate agent's office. Diane Gray generously makes arrangements for us to have a yard sale there. Last year we raised over $3,000 at that. And we run a fishing tournament every year. And that raised $600 for us last year. So we're trying to build up. We need to get that $40,000 in matching grants to justify, you know, to say, yes, we have this budget, it's $40,000. We had some carryover from last year that will help us get there. But we want to extend our CBI program. When we see those numbers, we run right now from Father's Day to Labor Day. Last year on Secocas Lake and Limerick, Memorial Day weekend, their CBI, volunteer CBI inspector they had over there, caught milfoil going in on a fishing boat, and the fisherman said he had just left Lake Arrowhead. So we want to extend our hours to help try and prevent that, because that could just as easily happen over in Little Ossipee as well as it could over in Secocas. So we are probably one of the biggest threats to the entire state, and the DEP recognizes that. The Maine Milfoil Initiative recognizes that, and that's why they've selected us to do that. The other thing we also do, and I'm not sure if everybody's aware of this yet, but we're also a primary interface on Ledgmere Dam now. We deal with FERC, which is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And we're also dealing with the DEP with Dana Murch, who is the head of the Maine Dam Brigade, I guess. I'm not sure what the best term would be, but Ledgmere Dam was sold last month. Does everybody know that? You know, we found out it's now owned by an Italian company called Epico, E-P-I-C-O. Actually, we're hoping this will be an improvement because they are now having full-time management. They bought 4 dams in Maine. The other closest one, and where their main residence is going to be, is over in Keyser Dam. They're going to maintain an office full-time there and have it staffed full-time, as well as the folks that are watching the water levels. You know, they've ripped the dam down again this year with those last rain things, but one of the things we feel and what we're trying to work on with the new dam owners is to be proactive. We all knew that big rainstorm was coming. Do you think those side flashboards were open? Let the water drain down ahead of time? So we're trying to proactively get them to manage the lake water levels better. Ossipee feeds in. You guys, through your own management, do a good job maintaining the levels of that. We want the same thing to happen over on Lake Arrowhead as well, and we have to deal with FERC, and they have a foot, 1 foot that they can drop a lake by their federal license. So we need to work within those parameters. So it's been a real long educational experience for us. We seem to get involved in more things as we go because there are more things that need to be done. We're also working with York County Soil and Erosion, helping them. They had a big milfoil symposium last year here in Waterboro. I think it was at Town Hall, if I'm not mistaken. But they ran a week-long invasive plant species for York County, and we're one of their largest contributors to that, and demonstrations and speeches and those sorts of things. The other big thing everybody's always worried about, and I know Limerick was, as a result of the assessment, tax assessment, they ended up dropping the waterfront home values, the land values, excuse me, not the home values, by 10% to 20% in Limerick, depending on where the people's homes were on the lake and how bad the milfoil infestation there is. So for us, we feel the work we're doing helps both communities stabilize the tax base and what's been a real shrinking base. If you look at the real estate values on Arrowhead compared to other lakes in the area. And they really have been dropping significantly in comparison. So we're trying to help stabilize our homes, which are our assets. I'm a year-round resident in Limerick on the lake. You know, the town and the selectmen in Limerick have recognized that problem because their hired assessors identified it to them. And it really ended up costing the other taxpayers in the town a lot of money to make up that valuation that they lost. And it wasn't just a one-time deal when you stop and look at it. It's really a, you know, it's a gift that keeps on giving in a way, unfortunately, because that's 10 to 20% every year. It's not just a one-time deal. You never collect that money until that tax basis is able to go back up again. Give a couple other things we have to do this year as part of this main milfoil initiative is we're going full guns on a GPS mapping of the entire lake to identify where all the milfoil is, which they call littoral zone. So it's an area out 15 feet from the shore and generally, and water up to 15 feet deep. I just look at them when I go to these meetings, they say, my whole lake is a littoral zone, because the average lake depth in Arrowhead is 6 feet. So we have a big problem. We're prime area for growing milfoil, if you will, so we need to keep finding it. Some of the information that's in this little package I put out tells you we really did do a lot. And with the money we're doing this year, what we receive from this grant, or will be receiving from the grant, we've already put a deposit down on a second boat, another 28-foot boat with an outboard and a trailer. We're putting an order in this Friday. The order goes in for the suction harvester equipment, so we'll have 2 full boats running full-time this year on the lake. We're not sure. We're budgeting for a 6-day-a-week program. We're actually, you know, we're doing pretty good as being an employer as well. Right now, we have 22 employees that are running we have boat divers, 6 of them. There's 6 boat captains. There's 11 CBI inspectors. And I think that's it. So it should out somewhere in the 20s, that number. So we're employing a lot of people. Most of all of them are Waterboro residents, to be truthful as well. So we're keeping folks employed, helping to fight this problem as well. So we're asking the town if they could help us by providing the same matching grant that Limerick did, which was $3,000. It helps us meet our requirement to the main milfoil initiative. It'll help us extend our CBI program beyond Father's Day to open it back to open it up to Memorial Day and extend it to the end of October instead of Labor Day. So these are just some of the programs that we're doing. There's benthic barriers. We're laying the mats down on the bottom. But I think most importantly, the thing to keep in mind from a town perspective is we're out there trying to be partners with everybody on both sides of the lake, you know, Limerick and Waterboro. We're trying to protect everybody's asset and everybody's tax base. So we ask for your support for that reason. If I can answer any questions, I'd be glad to.
You mentioned the new boat and equipment. That's a one-time situation. Is there, what do you see ongoing, the cost of running the two boats? And,
yep.
Are we looking for a kind of an ongoing thing over the years to support this? Or?
Well, the 3-year grant, Maine Milfoil Initiative, they funded it for the first year, and part of the requirement of that is to solicit the support of the communities around that lake, so Waterboro, Limerick, in our instance. Other lakes are involving the communities around their end. If that gets funded again next year, we probably will come back and ask for the support of both towns for next year on a similar amount of money. It wouldn't be any larger, because what we do is we budget, on average, our cost last year to run the entire program for one boat in the CBI program was $26,000. That includes having to cover workman's comp, liability insurance for the board, and the total expense of running the boat and putting the benthic barriers, buying the benthic barriers, laying them down in there. So our estimate this year is going to be right around $50,000, and that will be 2 boats, benthic barrier programs, CBI programs.
No,
actually, CBI program is separate. We keep that under a separate budget.
Is all the manpower volunteer, and the cost, gas and equipment, or
no, the manpower,
the divers paid? Or?
The divers are paid, and the boat captains are paid, and the CBI inspectors are paid. CBI's program, we run that program 7 days a week, from, right now, Father's Day through Labor Day. And it's impossible to get volunteers to stay there 10 to 12 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure, again, we're one of the worst offenders. DEP gives us a partial grant for that. They give us about $8,000, I think it is, to
So
help
what do you
run that
need in
program.
volunteer help in order to keep?
Volunteer help is, some of the things that we do is the board work that goes on behind the scenes to administer all these programs, the scheduling. The other volunteer things are running the yard sales that we do, the fishing tournaments that we do, the membership drives that we do. We have volunteer days for benthic barriers where we help people put benthic barriers in front of their own homes, in front of their own beaches. We try and deal with the areas that cause the greatest concern or problems on the lake where boats might traffic through a lot, cut up the milfoil. You know, quarter-inch fragment of milfoil will create a colony someplace out on the lake, someplace else on the lake if it sinks down. So we're constantly dealing with that. We're going around in boats, volunteer time, skimming the top of these fragments to help reduce the fragmentation problem.
So, but the actual running of the boat and the actual harvesting of the milfoil, those are all paid people? Or
Those are
you
paid
can
people,
put,
yes.
some volunteer people?
The problem is, our insurance companies won't let us put volunteers on that. And that's what we found out, because when you get into that, then you're dealing with a whole other set of problems. So we can't even do 1099 employees, they're actually employees of Lake Arrowhead Conservation Council. And it's all strictly insurance reasons.
How much of Arrowhead is infested at this point?
My honest estimate is somewhere between 65 and 70%.
And with what you did last summer, it was the first year that
First
the
year.
boat was on. How much milfoil do you think you were able to eradicate?
Our guess is, and it's not a guess, it's a rough estimate, but how the DEP measures it is, and other boats use these things called onion bags. I don't know if you've seen other harvesters on other lakes. Ours was a revolutionary design. That's why I wanted to include this document so you can see the pictures of it. We use those big baskets. Other lakes use these trough systems where that hose comes out, goes into a trough on the boat that might have 4 stations with bags attached to them, onion bags. And the milfoil goes down into that. And they're roughly 50 to 80 pound bags. So they figure you've removed 80 pounds of milfoil with each bag. So they say, well, how many bags do you guys remove? Well, our design allows us to be more cost efficient than all these other ones. They require 2 people on the boat. We only require 1, the captain and then the diver in the water. So our operation's 2 people, it's 3. But we're guessing, to get to your point, about 20 tons this past year, based on the onion bag thing. We look at it different. We don't have to unload our boat every day because milfoil, it's really, what holds it up, if you will, is the water that's in it. When you leave it in these baskets, the water drains out and the milfoil actually sinks down and collapses. So we can run with those 2 big baskets we have in our current boat, we can run almost 3 to 4 days without emptying the boat. Lake Arrowhead comes down with a front end loader, hooks a chain up, takes the baskets off, and then they haul it away to a composting site that's on Lake Arrowhead Community's property, and we harvest that. You know, we turn it into compost with other things. So, but roughly about 20 tons last year is what our estimate was. But that, and you know, our goal is to run it last year from Father's Day to Labor Day with weather and thunder and storms, those type of things. We ran the boat 83% of the available time. So this year, we hope to be doing the same type of thing. We budgeted for 100% operation. Last year, we ended up spending about 83% of that. That was what allowed us to spend more money. We ran the milfoil, the CBI program, till on weekends through October instead of stopping at Labor Day with the funding we had left over. So we just wanted to extend that to help protect the other lakes in the area, so other lakes throughout the state. So.
I was actually shocked because 6-7 years ago, the beaches, all the little beaches you have.
The association
I
beaches.
found out what milfoil was because we took some clients down, and I mean, it was just, you couldn't swim on the beaches anymore. It was so packed with this green stuff.
And what we do, last year, the DEP asked us to do 3 things with the boat. Actually, we had 3 goals with the boat last year. The first thing was to market the boat to the Lake Arrowhead community. So move the boat around a lot. Make sure the folks on your lake can see it. It'll help you support your own organization by doing that. Don't just work one spot and stay there, move it around. The other thing they asked us to do specifically was to harvest any milfoil around the boat ramps. Keep the boat ramps free and clear. We use our benthic barrier program around the beaches to try and make swimming as palatable. And we actually did a very good job last year. Our beaches were so improved last year because of the result of the harvester with the divers and the benthic barriers that we put down. But it's one of those things where you can spend a lot of time and effort doing it, and as we all know, everything costs money today. And insurances being what they are, for us to do this program, no volunteer, a person like myself, I'm the president of the Lake Arrowhead Conservation Council. Without those insurances, I wouldn't feel very comfortable having a diver underwater and something possibly happening to him without having the necessary insurances in place. I just couldn't be part of an organization, and none of the board members could. So that's why it's important that we do maintain the necessary insurances to protect everybody that's involved in this goodwill type of effort. There's an old expression, no good deed goes unrewarded. Well, I think that's what insurance companies are for. So,
Will this program ever get rid of the milfoil, or is this kind of a forever program
it's
now?
a little Sebago. I'll give you an idea. Songo River, LEA, the Lakes Environmental Association out of Bridgeton, runs a program. Basically, they were taking care of Brandy Pond and the Songo River going down through the locks. They've knocked that back to the tune of about 90% of what it used to be. And now they're having a hard time, Little Sebago as well, is having a hard time finding milfoil in the lake. That's what's so important about this GPS mapping effort, and that's another thing we're spending money on, to buy GPSs and the GIS system that has to run on computers to do all this. We're probably 15 to 20 years into having milfoil on Lake Arrowhead. People tell me they saw it in the 70s. I don't really know. I was over in Pickerel Pond back then. So I went from the frying pan to the fire, I guess. Maybe it's backwards. I'm not sure which one's worse, the hydrilla. They say the hydrilla's worse, but, our goal is to knock it back, make it a management issue on a yearly basis, and just try and knock the percentage down on a yearly basis. I don't want to stand up here and tell anybody, we're going to get rid of this. This is our goal, is to get rid of it. Our goal is to manage it, is to reduce the infestation, and to reduce the impact it will have on other lakes throughout the state, and to help stabilize our property values, both for the town and ourselves.
Just to throw this out there, the town actually purchased the ARC software, GIS software last year. Maybe there's an opportunity there. We want to start getting some mapping into the system. Maybe this is an opportunity for us to work in partnership,
Yes.
save you some money in the software, and help us at the same time. So throw that
Yeah.
out there, maybe something we can
No,
talk about.
that's definitely, Lake Arrowhead community itself. I'm also the vice president of Lake Arrowhead community. And we just received a Maine Rural Water Grant for $5,000. We have to do the GPS mapping of our water infrastructure over there. So we're just getting involved in that as well. So it's funny how GPS is really becoming the thing for doing all these different things. I never envisioned it as a way of tracking milfoil, but we're going to be equipping our boat captains with GPS so that they can identify the areas they've worked in, so the DEP can come back, or the Maine Milfoil Initiative can come back and do an analysis. How is that area now, 6 months later, a year later, 2 years later? But the big thing that I want to pass on to is we're not just going here and there and trying to make people happy in front of their houses. We really do have a strategy for doing this. We're fortunate on our lake compared to other lakes infested with milfoils. We have these feeds that come in. We're flowage, the Little Ospey River flowage. So we get the feed from the Little Ospey Lake, Little Ospey River, and we get the Brownbrook feed, which is basically Secocas and Pickerel Pond, and God knows what else joins with that somewhere along the way. Those create currents, each one of them. Our goal with these harvesters and with the benthic barriers and the way we're working it and what we did last year is we start at the feeds where the water comes in and start cleaning there. Hopefully, milfoil fragments aren't like fish where they can swim upstream. They can only go in one direction down. So we're taking the approach of working with the currents. And we're working at the beginning where these feeds are and our way into areas. So that's what the second boat is going to be designed primarily for as part of the scientific study that the Maine Milfoil Initiative wants to see. And what they'll be monitoring is how that scientific part of doing this works. Does that make a difference compared to other lakes that don't have the currents to work with? So, but it also kind of gives us an idea of where the milfoil is going, because the currents will sweep it into certain coves. So does it make sense to do a lot of work harvesting a cove until you clean up where it's coming from? Because then you're just pouring, good money in after bad, or bad money in after good, whatever. But, so, we're really taking a really wide-angled approach with this, and not just, a shotgun approach. We're just saying, we're going to kill as much as we can. No, we're really trying to put some scientific principles, and there's a doctoral candidate that's heading up the Maine Milfoil Initiative out of University of Maine, Orono, Jackie Bailey. She's providing a lot of guidance. Maine VLMP, Maine COLA, which is the Congress of Lake Associations, the DEP, all sit on this Maine Milfoil Initiative consortium, and we have to go to different training courses. It's been ongoing for probably 4 or 5 Fridays since January that we've been going to for different training courses. So we're putting a full-fledged effort into doing all this.
Okay. Any other questions? You got somebody's arm sticking behind you. David?
Perhaps you answered this in your last statement about the inlets, but there's a lot of area that Lake Arrowhead covers that is not a part of Lake Arrowhead Association. Are you looking at the whole block?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's really like Little Ospey Lake feed comes in. None of that is Lake Arrowhead communities at all. So, but that's one of our main fear areas, because there's a gigantic boom down there north of our beaches, Ridgeway Beach and Tower Beach. So we spent probably 2 weeks just working that boom last summer, just to prevent the damage that will do by boats going through, cutting it up and directing it into other areas. So we don't really care. Somebody asked that at our annual meeting when we had our Lake Arrowhead community annual meeting. It's like, oh, you're really going to give preference to Lake Arrowhead Conservation Council members, right? And I'm going, no, that's really not what I'm about. I'm about attacking this problem where it exists and cleaning that up. I'm not, I always said I'd do this job as long as I didn't lose any friends. Well, maybe my attitude about doing milfoil harvesting might cause me to lose some friends, but I know it's the right approach to take. I don't really look to just do it in front of people who signed up and given a $100 check. I'm trying to do it where I'm going to get the biggest bang for the buck in the long term, not just to make somebody happy. What we are trying to do, though, is we're looking at the possibility, if we have a 1 day extra a week on Sundays, if somebody wanted to pay the Lake Arrowhead Conservation Council, we're checking insurance requirements and those type of things, so that it would be part of a fundraiser to help be a self-sustaining effort. People would pay whatever. If our cost is $500 a day, they'd pay $550 or something like that for a $50 fundraiser. I'm just throwing numbers out because we haven't really researched it fully, but that's just an idea that somebody on the board had to try and give people that opportunity that really wanted to have an area cleaned up in front of their house or something like that. But to the point, no, I don't really care where it is on the lake. I want to get the areas that are causing the biggest damage to the lake and work on them first.
I think it's important, we went through this, I know, 2 years ago when we had the request at town meeting for everybody to understand that the Lake Arrowhead Conservation Council is not tied to Lake Arrowhead community.
No, we are
Right.
separate,
It's a
standalone
separate-
501c3.
Right. There's a relationship, certainly, because
Yes.
one hand feeds the other,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
to some extent. But this is a separate
Separate,
council that's
Yeah.
out trying to
We have
in
a
essence,
federal-
save the lake.
yeah, we have a federal tax ID. We have every license required by the state of Maine. We've gone through, we have an attorney that sits on our board that makes sure everything is done the way it should be done, to the point of keep me up late nights. Just thinking, what can she come up with next? Hopefully she won't see this, but.
Question in the back, Willis?
So you think you're gaining on it or you're losing on it?
I think right now we're probably just breaking even. We're only 1 year in the till, if you will. I mean, we had benthic barriers for a few years while we built up the suction harvester. But I think with 2 boats working in areas that create problems in other places, that's when we're going to start making inroads in reducing the overall amount of milfoil on the lake.
About how much area has been you got milfoil?
How much area has milfoil? Well, it's called an 1,100 acre lake, impoundment. And I'm saying it's somewhere between 60 and 65% has milfoil on it.
Jeez.
So, some are big blooms, some are individual strands, and that's part of this GPS mapping. When you go out there, you have to get the waypoint coordinates associated with that bloom, and you have to code the density of the infestation. This all gets fed back up at the state level, and we go to the DEP, and we work on it from there.
All right. Anything else? We have to, because the request came in late,
I didn't, apologies.
so in the future, January 1 is always a good date
Okay.
to be.
I was
making
doing the
requests.
Limerick one at that point in time.
But I think that, it takes a unanimous vote of this board tonight to put this on the warrant. And I would only say if that happens, then I'm sure that the same kind of information is going to have to be presented at town meeting.
Be glad to do it. Well, so thank you for your time, I
Okay.
appreciate it, and hope to see you at town meeting.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hearing a delegation. Correspondence, we have the Road Review Committee's letter in regard to safe road to schools. Reports, Nancy?
What I have is later on, it pertains to what you have on the agenda.
Okay. Anything from the selectmen?
I'll have Tammy take last night, but
Okay.
I just want to remind people that next Monday evening at 7 o'clock in here, we're going to have a information session on the comprehensive plan that is going to be worked on over the next year or two. So people that might be interested in working on the committee or just interested in the plan itself and how it works, come Monday night at 7 o'clock here.
Okay.
Last evening, John and I attended the 12-town group monthly meeting, and one of the topics of discussion last night was the DOT is looking at returning some of the minor collector roads to municipalities. In Waterboro, we're looking at the West Road, the Goodwins Mills Road, and the Townhouse Road. MMA has a delegation that's been working with the Department of Transportation, and there's a committee that's been put together that's comprised of, I believe it's 11 municipal leaders, members of the DOT, members of MMA. And right now, what they're bantering about is statewide, they're looking at 2,200 miles of these minor collectors that would be returned to the municipalities. What the DOT is proposing at this point is that this would be done over a 10-year span. Each year, the DOT would budget $30 million to go into these minor collectors, and we're not really sure where this $30 million is going to come from. It seems like right now the state's having a hard time finding money, and with the not wanting to raise taxes, I guess it's just going to get kind of pulled out of the air. But what they're going to do with these funds is they're going to bring the roadway up to state standards. They would be making sure that the roadways had all new signage, culverts were in working condition, new guardrails. They'd address any water issues, repair any ditching, take care of any trees that are creating water problems, and then do a shim overlay. The town and DOT would agree that the road was up to standard before DOT would turn it over to the town. There's, after that's done, the benefit to the town is that, we get a little more Europe money, which is going to be about $600 for each lane mile being one side of the road, so we'd be getting about $1,200. And when you look at the cost of roads, that certainly goes nowhere near maintaining the roadway. So this is going to be a cost to the municipalities, no doubt. One of the, they're going to have what they're calling a clawback feature for municipalities that, with these minor collectors, haven't been able to wait for the state to do some work because the roads are in such disrepair, and they do the work before the DOT gets to them in that time span. They're going to reimburse them some funds and any funds that they put into these minor collector roadways. A lot of questions, a lot of conversation. I think probably the general consensus last night was that we're going to be getting these roads back one way or another. The question was asked, what if the towns don't agree to this program? Then what's DOT going to do? DOT is saying they cannot afford the road infrastructure as it is right now. If we don't agree to some sort of a program that puts some money into these roadways and return to the town, the DOT just isn't going to be able to repair them. They're going to fall in disarray, and eventually a lot of them probably turn into dirt roads. MMA is meeting, and the committee is meeting again tomorrow, Thursday, with DOT, and hopefully we'll have some more information within the next couple of weeks. The committee has to have a report with a recommendation to DOT and to the governor's office by July 1st. So, more to come.
So as far as, I think the July 1st, it goes to the Transportation Committee, and then if the Transportation Committee comes up with a bill, then it has to go before the legislature, of course. So, but, you know, you do kind of feel your back is against the wall. You got these roads the state isn't keeping up with, and they say, okay, we're giving them back to you, but we're going to see if we can soften the blow a little bit with some money. You know, they haven't. They're not funding the schools, and I think one of the things that the state is running amok with now is they have no credibility as far as funding things. So when they say, oh, we'll put some money into this, people say, prove it. So one of the ideas is that they'd get a large bond issue, put the money up front, and then maybe draw down on it on these roads over a 10-year period. That might be one of the plans. But still, you're talking about a $300 million bond to fund something like this, and I'm not sure people are going to go out and vote on a $300 million bond for the state to fix roads that, well, I don't know, you know? Stick around.
Waterboro actually isn't too bad in the number of miles that we would be getting. For us, it would be about 9 miles. You look at a community like Parsonsfield. Parsonsfield is looking at 25 miles of road that's going to be turned over to that town. And Parsonsfield was here last night, and they said there's no way financially that they could take on the burden of another 25 miles of roadway.
I mean, I don't know if they have 2,000 people in the town of Parsonsfield, so that would be absolutely impossible. And you've got other towns around the state that are like Parsonsfield that have these state aid minor collector roads that would be going back to the towns, and the towns just don't have the people to support it, or the tax base to support it. So
the other thing that was brought up briefly last night was on the governor's race, the number of candidates that there are for governor right now. So far, MMA has interviewed 8 different folks that are running for the governor's office. And they said of those 8 that they've interviewed, at this point, only 1 has expressed an interest in working at the bottom with the municipalities, starting with the municipalities and working up. The other 7 never mentioned working with the municipalities at all. It was very much apparent that it was an us and them mentality, so it was interesting to hear.
It's amazing when they're being interviewed by MMA, not to mention that you want to work for the municipalities.
We're just a minor nuisance, so to say.
I mean, a good politician is going to say, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else, Tammy?
That was it.
All right, David.
I would think Joe's here as a representative, and the 12 towns would call in their representatives and discuss this with them and express very strongly on what the repercussions are going to be if the legislature rubber stamps this idea. And if they don't support the towns, that there will be some type of consequence for the people running for office.
The committee did have a hearing last week where I believe there were 14 people from just York County that went up, different town managers, road commissioners and whatnot, and expressed what the impact to those communities would be if this was to pass. What will happen is once this report is complete and goes to the Transportation Committee, there will be more opportunities for municipalities to participate in these hearings. And when it makes it, if it makes it to the legislators, again, there'll be public hearings. I think when that happens, it's going to be very important for all communities to make sure that they're represented at those hearings and that they're sharing the impact that that's going to have on the municipalities. And that includes Waterboro. We're going to need to be there. We're going to need to be involved in this process. Yes, the 12-town group is representing our interest, but I think it means a lot more when, instead of just that one person that's speaking for 12 towns, you have 12 towns at the hearing.
It's going to be interesting.
So have they lowered the comparison between population and when they give the roads back? Because it used to be 7,000.
Yeah, I don't think that comes into play here, David. I think what this is that these are state aid roads, or, I mean, we're already plowing and sanding the roads that they're talking about giving back, but, in Waterboro anyway, but, I mean, I just find it's interesting. It's, Route 112 is going to be turned back to Buxton, 22 through the whole town of Buxton is being turned back to Buxton. I mean, there are some more significant roads that I would think that, I mean, and Buxton certainly exceeds the MDOT number, right? I mean, I think it used to be 6,000. I think there was a change to that, but I'm not sure that comes into play with this specific initiative.
You go down to Route 22 at 7:30 in the morning, it surely doesn't look like a minor collector.
And several of these roads that they're proposing are roads that are on the bottling plant truck route. So you look at something like Townhouse Road, and with the heavy amount of truck, how many, Nancy, how many tractor trailers go by here on a daily basis? The roads are not going to stand up to the life expectancy that they did pre-bottling plant.
On the other side of it, Tammy, we also have the right to post them.
Yep.
Where the
Yes.
state only just started doing that this year.
Yeah, I
And
think,
if those roads are under the town control, then we can post those roads.
I know they posted 112,
Right.
and they,
The whole road is just a section, Dennis,
well,
right?
I think there was that, well, I mean,
It's a nut yard.
they couldn't get there from here, right?
Right.
But I mean, they were posted through Buxton, right? So,
Yeah.
to the Saco line or wherever the
There was
improvements were.
posted through Saco too. And
So-
there was some very heavy enforcement action, I can tell you, taken on trucks that opted to ignore those postings.
Well, some of them ignore the postings in Waterboro, too, but, when you get a semi-tractor trailer coming down over Roberts Ridge or Daring Ridge Road. Somebody missed a sign somewhere. All right, so more to come on that, and, you know, it's as we continue to see more and more efforts to reduce state government, there will be more and more results of increasing local now. So, anyway, we'll see what happens there. Committee reports, we do have the road review committee is up this evening. John, I don't know if you're... whatever you would like to give, sir. The microphone is yours.
Do you have to do the microphone? I don't believe you.
David is gonna, he'll get rough with you. David will get physical with you if you don't move up. Would you like us to move the camera so we can pick up the other side of you?
The other side, yes, yes, my other side. We don't have much going on right now, other than the two items that the board has asked us to investigate. One being the safe route to school sidewalks, which we still have not given up. I understand that some people say or think that we have given up on trying to get the grant for that. We haven't given up. And the other is the water situation that doesn't seem to be ours, but we've looked into it, Hemlock and Oak, off of the old Alfred Road. We have quite a library of pictures. I don't know if they're available are they available on the computer?
Jim has them uploaded somewheres. They are available online.
They are, yeah. They have two issues that they're blaming the town or somebody else. One is surface water, and the other is drinking water. The road review can't do anything about surface water or the drinking water, other than the fact that we can recommend that to this board that create drainage. And I did put out a plan for it. Did you do anything with it? No? We'll get that to everybody. Just a layman's idea of what needs to be done on those. There is an answer. Whether it's a correct answer or not, I don't know, but there is an answer of just putting drainage all through there. And there is a brook that I assume we can connect to. It would need improvement. It would probably need pools, dams, whatever, because there's a lot of water in there. And I guess the school is starting to realize that maybe they're some of the problem, or all the problem. They had their roads closed in there several weeks ago. Couldn't get in there.
Well, we have, through Nancy, have made a request to the superintendent to, I guess, pull together a meeting between the superintendent, school board, this board, road review, whomever else would be interested in participating. And certainly there's a lot of residents down there, but at least to look at the fact that I think we all agree that, we might agree to disagree, but we all agree that there is an issue with the drainage that has either been exacerbated or...
There is no drainage.
Right, there never was a lot of drainage, right? I think if we go back to years ago when the town did put some drainage in there, there's very little movement of the water from Route 5, we'll say, over to
It is below Route 5 grade, and it is below the old Alfred Road grade. We did this 2 years ago, and we put in a report on that, and
So the bottom line is that we need to get all of the parties together so that we can determine what is it that we need to at least recognize and go forward and try to resolve. And I know there's a lot of discussion in the engineering community, I think, that would surrounded that school relative to what is going on, so we'll see.
Some of the pictures that the road review committee took, it's quite interesting in that you can see that some places the water is completely covering the roadway. And what's interesting is that you can see how the water is starting to erode along the road edges and eating under the roadway. And eventually what we're going to have is we're going to have a collapse of the roadway as the water continues to erode what's under the pavement. Maybe the pavement doesn't look half bad right now, but certainly under the pavement is taking a licking.
Yeah, the only thing that we got going for us is there's not a lot of current.
It's
And
not flowing anywhere.
I'm not sure if that's not the problem, because I mean, how do
It's
you,
not going anywhere.
if you don't have any current, how do you set up a drainage system?
From the last storm, I would guess, because I was over there, that 80 to 90% of paved road was underwater. The whole
So
thing.
it's something that we try to pull everybody together and at least see if there's some, I'm not sure that there's an immediate resolution to it, but at least something that we can all start to.
Is there anything that the board wants us to investigate now?
I think we have everything that you've done to this point, which is,
Okay.
Just to let you know, FEMA has gone over and looked at it already as well.
That neighborhood?
Ken, you
Okay.
talked about being able to attend a road review committee meeting. Do you think you could do May 12th?
May 12th? Yep.
That's their next meeting, talk about mitigation monies.
We don't want her there.
well, we get the other issue that.
It's in her office.
We have the other issue I know Fred has been, is aware of, and Pam, I'm not sure that you've been involved, but on the Mass Camp Road, the
Yep.
bridge there, so.
Talked
Yes.
to Fred today, I've put in for, that is a separate Form 7 amount of money today for that.
I believe it was around 20,000.
Yes, sir.
That road is closed due to the last storm.
Yep.
And Fred has a meeting with FEMA.
This week.
Okay.
I don't know where he is.
Anything else?
The abandoned ship.
Questions of John?
Thank you.
Have we parceled this in with the situation that we have down in South Waterboro with the, about 202,
I don't think so. at
the
this point,
Hamilton,
Which is,
Hamilton Road?
little
Hamilton's
bit of a
another
different-
issue, but
right.
hopefully
But that's a
mitigation
state-
will help for that.
Okay. Now, when you say FEMA has also viewed it, is that the extent of what they've done, or are they formulating some type of remedial plan, or is there monies that might be available, or they just come down and look?
What happens is when a first presidential declaration happens, they have to come in and sort of support that there is enough damage. And so we try to take them to places where it's very obvious that there's issues. And in Waterboro, it was very obvious that one of the issues is pine and hemlock, or hemlock and oak. And so that's where we brought them the very first day. And so that they know that that is a major issue. They were able to see it when it was at its worst.
The road review committee has documented several storms now in that neighborhood with the water issue, so if FEMA needs to see photos of past storms,
And we have
review
some,
has it.
and I have some past storms as well. So,
The
but I,
photos are in your office,
good.
if they happen to be
Well, hopefully that's where Fred will be with us.
Doug?
Have you gone back in the records of when they were building the school and dug out the reports that Dana Morton submitted that said that the water was not going to be an issue? When we got the building fee money, we sent a representative to a meeting over there, as well as doing the inspections. We had a representative of the town of Waterboro go there every Thursday morning through the whole process of that. And several meetings, were directed toward the drainage and the fact that they were raising the fields higher or as high as the abutting streets. And they did a study, and Dana Morton came back and proclaimed to the school and to the town that they was not going to create a water problem. Now, those records should be here that had the minutes of those meetings.
I think there was a subsequent report that, when this all started, that we dug out as well, or Patty dug out, that someone else looked at it beyond that scope and said that they felt that the stormwater drainage and all of that was adequate and whatnot. Well, very obvious that, you know, when they, in a layman's, I guess, speaking here, when it comes to roads, that when they start looking at stormwater drainage and they start talking about 100-year floodplain and whatnot, 100-year floodplain has changed, right?
We've had a 500-year storm, we've had a couple 100-year storms, and a 500-year storm in the last 3 months.
Right.
On
So-
top of that, you know, you talk about, there's an easy fix for this problem of the schools is go down in front of the old town building. There's drop enough to run that water down there, get an easement down at the end of the street, and that water could be drained right down into the brook. And then if you go down the other side of the Friendship Park, in between the ball field and the horseshoe, there's another opportunity for a line to come up there and then be run up the other way. But part of that problem down there on Hemlock is the people have created it themselves. If you went down there during a storm, the water was flooded up on this end, and the culvert that crosses the road that we put in there 25 years ago, 30 years ago, wasn't running a third full. There was very little water going down that ditch because it couldn't get to it. And you look in between all the houses, and they've kept filling in and filling in and filling in and created dams. And there is no ditches down the side of the road. The water's running across everybody's driveway where there should be culverts. There is no culverts. So they have actually dammed that water up. And Gordon went down on 202 and looked at the problem that has some effect on Hamilton Road. But for those of you who don't remember it, there was another 3-foot culvert across the Hamilton Road that they took out. It was on this side of the railroad bed. The railroad bed creates a dam. It's created a dam. If you get on the railroad bed and go to an East Waterboro, those passages, culverts, rock culverts that were across there from 50 years of no maintenance at all have plugged up. If you go down to the dam in South Waterboro, which is your major contributor to this factor, that used to have a sluiceway that you could open as you faced it from West Road on the right-hand side. In 1963, 64, up through the almost 70, I'd go over there and take a backhoe and rip the planks out of that when the water got high for Roscoe Barney, so the water would run out through the sluiceway on the right-hand side of the dam. And now they've blocked that off completely. So the emergency or the high water or the release spillway is no longer active on that dam. That's backing that water up. All them trees behind Glen Bean's place, it's down. I mentioned that to Gordon one day. They were holding the water back. They were creating dams. The brush was getting up against them. So that the water, you know, I don't know the elevation difference, but in places it was flowing over the top of them trees. Somebody's got to go in there and remove those trees if you're ever going to get that water to flow down through there. They're an obstruction, and there's a lot of them. There isn't just 1 or 2 trees. How many is there, Gordon?
I didn't count them, but there's a lot. I mean,
There's a lot of
they're
trees
just a
in
twisted
that
man.
section right there that's down. And you've got the whole thing. You've got where Jim Hamilton put in his 2 culverts. You go from 2 culverts to 1 culvert to 2 culverts. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's just an obstruction down through the left-hand side going easterly on the Hamilton Road. It's just one obstruction after another down through there that blocks the flow of the water. And I've been out every storm that we've had this winter and rode every one of them roads for a good part of the nights and the days watching the water flow. And of course, the passage underneath 202 has always been a problem because the culvert is not large enough. But the obstructions on the old railroad bed are increasing the water flow that has to go across 202. When that used to flow across and come down what we call the Hamilton Brook.
Right.
But if you walk up that now, you'll see that those things are caved in, the bushes are growing. Zero maintenance since, well, Dennis, I don't know, I guess probably a few of us here, but I don't know. You remember when the last trains were running?
Yeah. I was a kid.
I remember correctly.
It had to be maybe late 50s, maybe in the early 60s, but that was it.
You know, I got a picture of the last train to come up through there. We used to put pennies on the tracks,
Yeah.
but I mean, that was a long time ago.
Or bottle caps.
Oh, bottle caps,
bottle
yes, that was a long time ago.
And we
So-
really flatten them out.
I mean, there's been a long time since there's been any maintenance done on any of those cross culverts. So now, instead of having a culvert there, we've created a dam. So all the water now has to go westerly, and none of it can flow into the Heath.
Yep.
You know, the Heath probably isn't getting anywhere near as full of water as it used to.
All right. Anything else? I'm not going to solve it tonight, all right? Let's move on. Discuss vote on referendum questions for June 8th municipal elections. Somewhere here we've got a list, I thought.
Yeah, we do.
All right. Where do we want to start? The first, let's just kind of scoot through these real quick. We don't need to read all of the wherewithals, but the first, I think Nancy's got it as A here, is the deal with the remaining or unspent money of the bond for the West Road project.
Yeah, we received the invoice for that, so we have a balance, excuse me, of $84,475 and some change.
So the proposal would be is to take those funds, in one, pay a portion of the cost of state routes to school project, if in fact there was a bond, or a grant, that we could win. And the other one was engineering of the improvements required at Deering Ridge Road. I'm not sure that there's a number hung on that at this point, but the proposal from the Road Review Committee was to raise $65,000 for Deering Ridge Road, which did not get put into the capital plan. Well, it's in the capital plan, didn't get put into the warrant. So some of those monies could go to, one, the engineering, or to the, whatever's got to be done for the prep work for future work on that road. So there's two proposals here. I think it's not specific of how this would break down, but the referendum would be for the town to take that $84,472 and it's some breakdown, spend that money on either one of those two infrastructure projects. Safe routes to school thing, dependent on us acquiring a grant.
Or just roads, I believe.
Or just, it doesn't default to that. The requirement is, through the bond bank and everything else, it would have to be spent on an infrastructure project, okay? So I think the first step is to say that we're willing to spend it on an infrastructure project. If that does not go forward, then it would be just used to pay down the bond.
I will move that we include the article to expend the 84,000 plus, as stated.
Is that better as a referendum or on town house floor, though?
I saw it as a referendum.
These questions that are listed are the ones that the board has discussed during the budget process, whether to
Yep.
make them referendum or warrant article.
So your motion, John, is to make this a
A
referendum?
referendum.
Second?
Moved and seconded to create this as a referendum. Discussion? Amy Jo?
Yep. I think one of the benefits about having this as an item on the townhouse floor is that it's going to give us an opportunity to explain where these funds would go rather than it just being at the polls. If it goes to a referendum, we're not going to have an opportunity to discuss it. It'll be incumbent on us to make sure that we educate the public beforehand, but if there's any questions, there's not an opportunity for discussion.
It's always an issue with a referendum vote. We're not. On the other hand, you know, if it's well presented and it's written up with a note, and people read that note, they should be reasonably well informed on it.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor of John's motion? Opposed? Motion carries. So it will be a referendum. We need to make sure that Mr. Urson prepares the language that we need to, well, present. Second issue is we had a request, I believe, from the EDC relative to appropriating not to exceed $10,000 transferred from the Conservation Commission account to a sign account to be spent under the direction of the Board of Selectmen and the EDC on welcoming signs to be placed in the entrance roads leading into Waterboro. Not sure that needs to be referendum, but
Maybe I'm inconsistent here, but and maybe it's $10,000 rather than $84,000.
Right.
But I think I would like to see that go on the townhouse floor.
so is that
And I think it's probably because of the size of the money more
is that a
than
motion?
Yes, it is a motion.
I have a second to that.
Second.
Any discussion on that? So the money that's in the conservation fund would be transferred out or identified for this purpose?
Is there going to be a prototype available for town meeting, or have we reached that stage yet?
Well, there's some discussion about that. We'd like to have a prototype ready for that time so everyone can see it. So again, that would be a discussion that the EDC will take, and we'll report back to you on that. I can't give you that answer tonight because we need to speak as a
The
committee.
bottom line is that the up or down of the vote probably depends on how well it's sold at town meeting, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yes.
So you can do that with prototype or just in words. Like they say, a picture's worth 1,000. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor? All right, so that goes on as a warrant article on the town meeting floor. C, shall a charter commission be established for the purpose of revising the municipal charter or establishing a new municipal charter? This we've kicked around, we've gone a couple of times. What's your pleasure here?
I'll make a motion that one's on referendum.
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion, I'm presuming that if it did
It has to be
go on,
referendum, I just need
Right.
to bring it up.
if it did go on, if it did get passed, it's now within the time frame that could be elected at the November election. Any discussion?
What would be, I know we've talked about this a number of times. We haven't addressed this actually in quite a while. What would be our purpose in driving a charter commission at this point?
I think it's just my view, my words, I guess, is just that I think it's time that we and we've said this a couple of times, although we can't seem to get the folks behind it, but we've had some very, very small turnouts of votes too, so is to take a look at the structure of town government, or town government per se. I'm not sure that you gotta say anything more than that. There are some issues, right, that we would like to see, but I mean, that's ultimately the decision of a charter commission of what they would present,
How
so.
long has it been since the last charter now? Almost 10 years, right? We'd have to review it in 10 years anyway, right? So,
So,
I was
but
just gonna say, if you're worried about the number of voters, November would be the one, because you'll have a big turnout in November
Right, but then there's not enough time for,
You'd have to do it the
for
same way.
November
to do
to
the,
June, right?
the nomination
It's within,
papers.
it's within 200 days, right?
You'd have to do the question and the election.
Right.
The electoral primaries.
Yeah, we have the primaries in June, so
Right.
it should be
Yeah,
allowed
I
to the
think
normal
there's, I
voter
think there's gonna
turnout.
be a fairly significant turnout in June.
I think so.
yeah.
So, any other discussion? All those in favor? Let her rip. Okay. D, shall the town approve a pay-as-you-throw or pay-as-you-bag, or however you want to call it, system, a tag system for disposal of household waste at the Waterboro transfer stations? There would be an explanation of providing the residents with X amount of bags/tags as the program was implemented free of charge. And then, et cetera, would go on to
I'll
whatever
move
the-
that to be referendum.
Second.
Also,
Any discussion on that? All those, in-
Is this going to be the language on the, okay.
No, because I just stuck it in there,
yeah, I
but
think
I don't know if you're going
I
to
think
bags,
we
if
would-
you're going to tags.
right.
How
I
many?
think the intent of the
Three?
committee is that if the tags work, fine. If the tags aren't gonna work, then it's gonna have to be some sort of a bag system.
But you'd start off with tag,
Yeah.
and we'd talked about 50 in there,
52.
50, I think
50,
50 tags.
52, whatever
So
the
one
case
a
may
week
be, right?
per
So-
household.
Any discussion?